Good morning, church. Today's name of God is Lord. It's Yahweh that we translate into Lord. And our text this morning is in Exodus chapter 3. It's where Moses notices the burning bush out in the desert, and he goes and checks it out because it's not acting according to the laws of science and nature. And he hears God speaking out of the bush, "Moses, Moses." And Moses says, "Here I am, Lord." And so I'll pick it up in Exodus chapter 3, starting in verse 5. "Do not come any closer," God said. "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." Then he said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. The Lord said, "I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I've heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I'm concerned about their suffering. So I've come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of the land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I've seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go, I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." But Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" I get that feeling. And God said, "I will be with you, and this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain." Moses said to God, "Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What's his name?' What should I tell them then?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. 'I am has sent me to you.'" God also said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, 'The Lord, Yahweh, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation." Now, the actual definition of the word Yahweh is a little mysterious, and it's not fully agreed upon by scholars. Some say it's God's self-sufficiency, that he needs no one for his well-being. Some say it's the fact that he is never changing. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Others say he's the God that sits over creation. Regardless, you can see it's this God that sits above all nations, above all presidents, above all kings and rulers, in a category of his own, and is not dependent on anyone. And yet, just as this text said, he sees the plight of the Israelites, and he's not distant from them. He intervenes in history on behalf of his people. It's the name that is most closely linked to God's redeeming acts in the history of his chosen people. And I just think where Moses was at in this time in history. Now, remember, he didn't have the prophets. He didn't have, obviously, the New Testament or the person and work of Jesus to look back on. He knew a very limited amount of God. And so God was stepping in and sort of pulling back the clouds and revealing who he really is, and giving this personal name, a name that was held so holy and sacred by the Israelites that we actually don't even know if Yahweh is the right way to say it, because it was lost over time. And so we see this like holiness, this otherness of God, and yet at the same time this closeness, especially in view of the hardships of the Israelites. And I think of the times that I've met celebrities or famous people that I've gotten the opportunity to spend more than like 2 minutes with, when I sort of put them in a separate category other than myself, and then I realize, after a little bit of time, they're real people. They have like thoughts and desires and words. And in the same way, God steps in and reveals himself as a real being, as a real relatable character, and that he actually relates to us. He steps into human history, sees our plight in the person and work of Jesus for us today. And while we do not necessarily have a promise of deliverance like the Israelites saw out of Egypt with our current plight, we know that God intervenes and He's with us. He's not far from the brokenhearted. He is the Lord. So with that, the song I've got for you is Lord of All by Kari, Jobe. Just rest in that song this morning. Put on your headphones, close your eyes, and enjoy this. I love you guys. See you later.